and it's showtime from downtown Winnipeg. That's his pass, a shot, they score! Shankly Cutter scores! What a stop by Hellebuck! Nikolai Ehlers off the faceoff!
Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV.
Welcome back for Season 4 of Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Joined here, as always, by Jets TV's Mitchell Clinton and 680 CJOB's Jamie Thomas. And man, does it feel good to say that. Welcome, fellas. How was the summer? I haven't seen you since the last episode.
We're in the same room.
Yes.
We don't do Zoom again.
Oh, my gosh.
Maybe. Let's not touch wood.
My internet was battling like crazy on a few episodes last year, so I can just imagine what some of the edits were like. So to be able to be in the same room with you fellows and be able to discuss topics related to the Winnipeg Jets and everything, it's just awesome. And how great was it to have fans in the building for the first preseason game? That was just really cool.
Yeah, it was. And before we get into that first topic where we'll talk about the fans, noting on Zoom, we're actually coming to you from our brand new podcast studio at our offices in True North Square.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. And once it's all finished and set up, there's a few more little nooks and crannies that we have to make nice. And then we will put up a picture on Twitter. It's pretty cool. So
there we go.
So I can't show you just now.
No.
Just tell you it's coming.
No.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, behind the scenes. All right, so let's get into this episode. Obviously, a little later in the podcast, we have Brenden Dillon joining Mitchell and I for a quick chat after practice. He was gracious enough to spend some time with us and let us get to know him a little bit better. All right, so fans back in the building. Mitchell, you mentioned it. I'll let you start. Just what was your emotions like when, whether it was when you walked into the bowl for the first time, or was it during the game? What sort of really stuck out to you that just made you realize that this truly was a special night on Sunday at Canada Life Center?
A couple of things. So for me, it even goes even further back to the spring when the playoffs were happening, and that was when we were able to have some frontline workers in the building. And I remember, I think it was before Game 1, or Game 3 against Edmonton, the first one in Winnipeg. And I remember walking the concourse after the morning skate, and you could smell popcorn. And
right.
I just remember, I'm pretty sure I've said that a few times, but if not on this podcast, to you guys for sure. And how that stuck with me. So I thought it was interesting to hear Paul Maurice mention it after the game against Ottawa here to open the preseason, that he could smell popcorn on his way out to the bench, and he said that's going to stick with him. And for me, it was the ovation after the first goal that Pierre-Luc Dubois got in the game, which would be the Jets' first goal of the preseason. I thought actually Logan Stanley got a real good ovation when he was announced in the starting lineup. Yep. And that stood out to me. And then overall, just being able to hear the cheers, there's a few Go Jets Go chants, just hearing all that stuff that I don't want to say you took for granted, because we're very lucky to do what we do, but just to be able to hear them and feel the atmosphere that they bring to a game, even though it is the first game of the preseason. I thought there's going to be a lot of things that stick out to me from this one, but it was just fantastic to have an atmosphere in the building again, and obviously the fans are a massive part of that.
Jamie Thomas, you have a unique perspective being a radio broadcaster. What was it like to be amongst the fans down in the concourse for the pregame show and just being on the airwaves?
Well, just having the pregame show having actual ambience behind it instead of from Kelly Moore's bedroom, so wherever it is in his house that he does it. So it does add a little bit extra panache to the whole thing. And then, we go to Montreal last year for games 3 and 4 of their second round series, the Jets and the Canadiens, and there was 3,500 fans in the building. And even though it was an opposition building, it was something special. It was great to have the 500, but to actually have the capability to have a full house and to hear words that all the tickets were sold after a lot of trepidation for a lot of people. You can understand why they're having those issues of wanting to come back. They did come back, and you can only see and imagine that it's going to get a lot more intense with people in the building as we get close to the regular season.
Fans aside and all the atmosphere and the good stuff, there's some hockey going on that we need to talk about. Just Mitch, what have you noticed through the first few days of camp? There's a lot of different storylines and some that we haven't really had to deal with before, some new, some good. Just what have your thoughts been of camp so far?
Well, the Jets opened the preseason with a loss, so clearly they got to revamp everything.
Yeah.
What have they done?
Yeah. No, I think it's been good. I mean, coming into camp, this was really the first time that, and fans have been able to come down to Bell MTS Iceplex as well to be able to watch practices. I think it's the first time they've really been able to watch someone like Cole Perfetti live. And I thought he stood out in the preseason game as well, made some real nice, smart plays with the puck. Some real nice seam passes that, as Paul Maurice likes to say, as the regular season goes on, those seam plays start to go away. But, I think it's been cool to see him play, actually, in terms of, on the ice, but with NHL players. I mean, he played at the Worlds for sure last spring, but just to see how he fits in, I think, has been interesting to me. And then, like you said, Tyler, there's going to be some spots that are open, whether it's fourth line or even on the wing. Should Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry get reunited, that spot's going to be open. I'm curious to see if Kristian Vesalainen can really grab that spot and make it his own, and see what he does with it. And he seems, based on some of the chats that he's had with the media and whatnot, seems to be really open to whatever he needs to do to earn that spot. He's willing to do.
As Mitch mentioned, the Winnipeg Jets falling 3-2 to the Ottawa Senators on Sunday at Canada Life Center. And then there was a bonus shootout as well, which I think caught everybody off guard. But, we got to see a really good shootout move from Cole Perfetti, so that was exciting.
Yeah.
Jamie, just what did you think of the game? Obviously, you can't put too much stock into these things, but at the same time, there's evaluating that goes on. And I thought Paul Maurice put it well. He said, there's a very vast array of attitudes coming to the rink. You have veterans saying, how many games do I got to play? And then you have the guy in the corner. This is the biggest moment of his life.
Yeah.
So it's
could
really
be his only game.
Yeah.
There is. And for a preseason game with the Ottawa Senators in town, I don't know if it was because the Jets played Ottawa 10 times last year. There was some, a lot of grit and some back and forth going for that. I know there's a lot of guys trying to make a name for themselves, but we got to know Shane Pinto a little bit as the year went on. Alex Formanton saw a lot of it from the Ottawa Senators' perspective. But for a first preseason game, there was a lot of hitting. There was a couple of fights, which you don't ordinarily see unless it's the Dustin Byfuglien game, as for the first Winnipeg Jet game here, then a game against Columbus. But watching Pierre-Luc Dubois after an off season where he got to he noted the fact that he's worked on his conditioning. It looked like it. That looked like the Pierre-Luc Dubois that the Winnipeg Jets were hoping for when they traded. And I know there was just flashes, but a burst down the right wing, the goal that he scored, just looked a lot more comfortable in his skin as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. So that stood out to me. Cole Perfetti, his vision you see a lot, even though it's just playing fourth line minutes. Jansen Harkins and Kristian Vesalainen killing penalties, which that is going to have to probably be a big part of what they're going to do if they're going to get the ice time they needed, or they're going to require, especially if Jansen Harkins is going to be a fourth line player to stick with the Winnipeg Jets. And then Eric Comrie, right? We come into this training camp, it's Eric Comrie's, it's not even his net to lose as a backup. He is the backup goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets. And there's a lot of doubters out there right now. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because his sample size is very limited in the National Hockey League. He's been put in some tough situations. Yeah. So I think a lot of people forget that if you just look at his numbers as a National Hockey League goaltender. But I don't think with what's on the line for the regular season and for the Winnipeg Jets this year, they're going to go and go, we're just going to throw Eric Comrie in there. No, they're putting him in there because they believe that he can do it. And that's Wade Flaherty, the goaltending coach. That's Paul Maurice. That's Connor Hellebuck. That's his rest of his teammates. So he's not in there just because he's a great guy, which he noted yesterday. He's in there because he can do the job.
It reminds me a lot of when the Winnipeg Jets brought in Laurent Brossoit. Mm-hmm. I think we were sitting in the office going, we signed who as the backup? And you're going, oh, okay. And then lo and behold, he's the guy and he's a solid backup, and he gave the Jets that stability. Now it's Eric Comrie's turn, and Connor Hellebuck and Wade Flaherty, like you mentioned, advocated for him to take the net. So best of luck to him as he continues forward with that. Mitch, one thing that's been different with training camp this year is we're doing one group or one skate. So everybody's skating at once. We're not doing two separate groups, and then they finish things off with a scrimmage. Just what are your thoughts on this approach? I know Paul Murray sort of touched on it earlier in the week. Just what do you make of how this is shaking out at Bell MTS Iceplex?
It's been interesting just because I wondered if it would translate into the first preseason game, then maybe there would be some things that would be a little bit crisper, but it just isn't, and I thought Blake Wheeler put it well. He's like, it's just some irregular things happen with the puck and those, and obviously you're going against your own teammates. There's just isn't any of that outside of the first one where Brenden Dillon took down a couple of guys and nearly a third. There just isn't that physical play. There isn't that, there's guys trying to get spots on the team, but they're not, at the same time, they're not going to run through one of their own teammates to do it. It just doesn't have the same kind of feel as an actual preseason game. But I do think it's probably been helpful for guys that want to make the squad, if only because, Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, they're going to run the systems that they have to run, and they know they have to run. And if you're a guy trying to make this team and you're going up against them, you know what level of defensive play or what level of play you have to bring to a game-like situation, if you will, in order to compete at this level. And of course, those are, three fantastic hockey players that you're going to be going up against. But if you're playing in the National Hockey League, you're going to be going up against high quality opponents every single night. So I think the scrimmages have been helpful in that regard. And then also, they're really making use of Bill MTS Iceplex out there, because like you said, it's one group in a technical sense, but they're skating on like 2 or 3 different rinks at once, and then they all kind of come together onto one rink. It's quite, they're really making use of all the ice surfaces out there. So, but yeah, I've been a big fan of having the scrimmages at the end, if only to get some reps in the system in real live kind of game action outside of the preseason.
One player that, I think is very intriguing in this camp is Evgeny Svetchnikov. Obviously, he's signed with the Manitoba Moose, but he's with the Jets on a professional tryout agreement. So, Jamie, what have your thoughts been of him? Obviously, he played in that 3-2 loss on Sunday to Ottawa. Just what did you make of his play, and what have you thought of him so far through camp?
Well, automatically, you have to realize if somebody's drafted in the first round, they have talent. And Svechnikov has that in spades, I think. And, a guy that was picked 2 spots ahead of Kyle Connor in the 2015 NHL draft. He's not the first round pick not to pan out in an organization. So, it's funny how those types of things work out. Now he's a little bit older. I think he realizes if something doesn't go well, it's not the end of the world. He doesn't have to try and force it. A little more mature. And now you have to get used to another team's system. And that's clearly what he's doing with the Jets right now. But you see the hands, and you see he's got a pretty good shot. He's on the half wall in this Jets second power play tonight. He has those skills, and he has great size. I love how he joked the other day early in camp, I believe it was mini camp, about that it was him that taught his brother Andre the Svechnikov move, and that skill is there. So I think we're going to see a lot of them. Paul Maurice has said that we will, and I just think there's just a lot of places this can go that will work out great for the organization.
Yeah, I would imagine he'll be given every opportunity to make that team. And just for those that don't know, he was drafted by the Detroit Red Wings and played some games with the Red Wings last season, but spent the majority of his time in the American Hockey League. Rolling into our interview now with Brenden Dillon. He took the time after, was it Friday's practice? Yeah, Friday's practice.
So many practices.
There
on multiple life surfaces.
Yes. Tough to keep track. So Brenden Dillon joins Mitchell and I. We chat about coming to Winnipeg, snow blowers, and right at the end we chat about his pedigree in track and field. So you'll definitely want to check that out. So enjoy the interview.
Go.
Mark Scheifele with a one-timer through the seam.
Jets.
Oh, what a save! Connor, hell of a
Go.
score!
Jets fans, are you ready for takeoff? Are you ready for the return of live in-person NHL hockey? The 21-22 season is just around the corner. Get your tickets now at winnipegjets.com/tickets. Quarter season plans, single game tickets, and full season seat packages are available. Visit winnipegjets.com/tickets and buy now.
Hi, this is Neil Pionk, and you're listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Joined here by Brenden Dillon on Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, our Season 4 opener, so obviously a really big distinction for you. Welcome to Winnipeg, first of all. How are you enjoying it so far?
So far, so good. Been great. I think I'm coming up on 2 weeks here as Manitoban, so The people have been great, neighbors around the rink, everything. So far, so good.
You mentioned your neighbors offered to snowblow. I looked, you're from New Westminster, BC. Can't imagine there would have been a ton of snow growing up. How apt are you with shoveling snow, using a snowblower?
Shoveling snow, I know how to do. Had that a couple, I don't know how many white Christmases I've had. Not that many, but if you asked me how to start a snowblower, use a snowblower, I would be completely lost. So thankfully, I think my neighbor was saying he's been a born and raised Winnipegger, so definitely knows his way around one of those, and will be my first Manitoba big time snow down here.
We're talking about snowblowers here. I'd be remiss if I didn't say my wife does the snow blowing, because usually, like, I'm part of the group that travels. So if I don't give her the kudos for handling our snowblower at the house, I will hear about it for a while. So you mentioned the other day when you were talking to the media that you're sitting next to Neil Pionk in the dressing room. Both of you guys undrafted. You make it to the NHL. And both obviously sought after players by the Winnipeg Jets and other franchises in the National Hockey League. Just what does it mean to yourself to get to this level in the NHL? You're a regular guy. You've been, you played, over 600 games in the National Hockey League. What does that mean to you to be a guy that's, undrafted, but now a guy that's valuable and a valuable commodity in the National Hockey League?
I guess it means I owe the Jets scouting staff a couple bucks for holding me in that regard. It means a lot. I think just even talking to Neil about it the last couple of days, and of course, a big summer for him with his new contract, and rightfully so. He's been a heck of a player for more than a few years now, and it's just something I think taking pride in being undrafted and having to prove yourself to not just your teammates and the organization that believes in you, but to the rest of the league, to the rest of the hockey world, and for my summer training or during the hockey season, throughout my entire career, it's been a big part of making myself who I am, and the mindset that I bring into every game and every day at the rink is I've got the best job in the world. I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm never going to take a day for granted, and a lot of guys obviously enjoy the game and like being an NHL player, but I'd like to think I just enjoy it that much. It's everything from the work and the grind that it is of a long season, and the back-to-backs and the tough travel, whatever it might be, just finding a way to take a positive out of it, that you're getting to do something special, be part of be part of a city that's so passionate about their team. And for myself and Neil, I think that's something we've bonded over these last couple weeks now, being together, and the fact that we're playing together is kind of a plus too, and hopefully we can continue to build on it.
What did you know about the Winnipeg Jets prior to being traded here in terms of playing against them? You played for San Jose for a long time, so there's usually about 3 games against the Jets. Then you were in Dallas for a little bit, and then in Washington, twice a year type of deal. But just what did you know about this group, and what got you excited when you finally kind of were able to process the fact that you were going to be a Winnipeg Jet?
The fact that I get to pass the puck to Nick Ehlers and Mark Scheifele and Pierre-Luc Dubois and Blake Wheeler instead of having to defend against those guys is definitely a plus. All seriousness, a heck of a hockey team. I think what Chevy's done and put together in his 10 plus years now of having the organization is pretty impressive, and everyone I've talked to now, from the players to the staff, loves to be part of the Jets organization. They really enjoy every day of kind of the blue collar work ethic and mindset that the culture that's been brought in here and instilled here, and whether that's someone that spent a year here as a Jet or someone that's been here for 10 some odd years like Blake Wheeler, they've got a lot of good things to say about it. And from the city of Winnipeg, I haven't known a whole lot about it. I grew up on the West Coast, and of course when you come in on the road, it's usually in and out. So to have a chance now with hopefully COVID on its way out to be able to venture out and check out some restaurants and do more Winnipeg, Manitoba things, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
You mentioned, a couple of guys there, Nikolai Ehlers, Mark Scheifele, both guys that I think also have their own Brenden Dillon stories from when you were in the opposition. I remember when you were acquired, Nikolai put in his Instagram story the hit that you had on him in Winnipeg, and he was looking forward to not having to worry about that. And then, of course, there was the scrum in San Jose after you hit Mark Scheifele in that game. And now you guys trained together. Is that something that you guys talked about? Was it something that came up during that time?
In this game, unfortunately, there's usually a couple battles you've had with guys, and good times you've had with players when you do get traded to a team. And usually guys we're pretty good about it. I think coming in, that's something you can bond over and have a couple laughs over before you get to it. But I've known Shai for a few years now, and of course playing against an Ehlers and that whatnot, it's the only way you can really you can only really stop them is try to get in their way or knock them down somehow, because I've got tremendous respect for both those guys and all the guys throughout the league. There's a lot of good players, but it was funny when you kind of come in and meet someone and shake their hand for the first time, and you kind of get the social media aspect going. And we've had a lot of fun throughout this first couple week and a bit, but ultimately just happy to be teammates with those guys now.
You had a long junior career in Seattle. What's it like to see that Seattle's getting an NHL team and you're going to get a chance to play against them? Just how excited are you to get out there and maybe see some old faces perhaps and just enjoy that city again?
It's awesome for someone that spent 4 years there, grew up in Vancouver, just outside of Vancouver. It's gonna be huge for that part of North America. Really, the Pacific Northwest is a huge sports area between the Mariners and the Seahawks, and they already lost their Seattle Sonics a few years back, and then now being able to get an NHL team in. I think we've already seen the success they've had throughout the jersey sales and the ticket sales, all these things, and the buzz going on in that area. So for hockey in general, it's going to be an awesome addition for teams like us that are going to be going on the road and getting to spend some time and check out the different pockets and areas for dinner, and another passionate fan base that we're adding to the hockey community. Ultimately, it'll be a blast.
Are you going to be the tour guide when you're on the road?
So I was only downtown at the Key Arena for my first year, which was 15 years ago now. But my final 3 years, we actually moved to Kent, Washington, which is about 30 minutes south of the city. So it's funny when guys would ask me, "Oh, what's a great spot to go? Good restaurant? Where's this? Where's that?" I go, "Boys, I wasn't down there much. I was an 18, 17-year-old, just young buck trying to make my way through the ranks." So tremendous city though, lots of good things going on there. So I'm sure it'll be fun.
I'm going to be relying on the recommendations of former Seattle Thunderbird GM Dennis Bayak.
Yes, there you
the
go.
old TV voice here in Winnipeg. Tell us a little bit about Heroes Hockey. I know it's a program that we were reading up on that sounds quite familiar to what the True North Youth Foundation is able to do with their hockey academy. But just for the listeners that don't know much about it, tell us about it.
Something that definitely means a lot to me, the Heroes Hockey. I've been with them now for I think the last 5 or 6 years. Kind of myself in my hometown of Surrey, BC, they just got the program. It's kind of was based out of Calgary, all throughout Western Canada for the most part, but it's really taken off these last few years. I used to do a golf tournament pre-COVID where we were kind of partnered up with Make-A-Wish Foundation, and then there was just there's a lot of hurdles with this whole COVID stuff that's really made it tough to raise as much money and have activities such as golf or get-togethers, and so it was a big part of just kind of being able to do things on Zoom. I remember last year I was able to get on with a bunch of youth programs, and the less fortunate that aren't able to play hockey or afford to play hockey on a regular basis, and I do a hockey camp in my hometown now. I've done it, I think, 4 years now, and it's just cool to get some of those kids to be able to come out and participate and to get on the ice with. We kind of had anywhere ranging from 10-year-olds to 14-year-olds this past year, and all the proceeds from that week-long camp goes towards Heroes Hockey. So been a really successful partnership, and now that I'm playing in Canada a little bit closer to home, and able to maybe be a little bit more involved, I'm looking forward to it.
You know, when we prep for these interviews, we go to the most reliable sources, which is Wikipedia, to try and find stuff. And your Wikipedia page is pretty robust, actually. And one of the things I noticed is you were a track athlete in school. Was that something you were pretty serious about as a kid, or was it just sort of an extracurricular?
I was. If there was a sport to be played, my parents just threw me in it, which it's kind of sad to see in this day and age where you almost have to be like a hockey player from age 8 on and quit everything else, which it sucks to see. But yeah, I was in everything. Track and field I kind of excelled in, which is why I took more of a liking. So it was kind of, track was in the summertime while hockey took a break, and just something to do that was different. You're outside, you're able to be with a different group of friends and kind of be social in a separate way. And I was a smaller guy growing up, so you get into the jumpings, triple jump, long jump, and it was just fun to do something different than being cooped up in a hockey rink. And ultimately, I just fell in love with hockey, couldn't get enough of it. So track had to take a back burner. And as you kind of got older, got to the point in high school where I was still able to be on the track team in high school and do my 200, 400, the ones I really enjoyed. But I think it probably helped me in some aspect in hockey to stay in shape and conditioned and all those types of things. But now I'm more of a bike guy, just to kind of keep the body moving and not wearing down too much on me in the off seasons. But yeah, it's fun to look back on the good old days.
Well, sorry to let you know there's not a lot of hills here, so you'll have to try and make
keep
some
it for the summer. I'll keep
exactly.
it in the summer.
Brenden, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Shop where the players shop. Jets Gear and TrueNorthShop.com are your authentic team stores. Make sure to stock up on all your favorite Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose merchandise today. Visit one of the 5 Jets Gear locations or shop online at TrueNorthShop.com.
Thanks so much to Brenden for taking the time. I think about my pedigree as a track and field athlete, and I don't have one.
We all did track, though.
Yeah, we all did it.
We've all done track.
I did. What was it? It was high jump.
You did high jump for sure.
I did, yeah. And
That's a given.
Which is
Mitchell's very tall
because,
for those that don't know.
And
Mitch, you're in high jump.
I think I peaked in high jump at grade 6. Yeah. So there you go. Shows how high
You just
that
waited a little bit
really
longer when you had your
was.
growth spurt. You could have had something in high jump.
Yeah, that's about as far as it went, though. No speed in this guy, so obviously the track events were not.
I was a long distance guy, like
Same as I.
the 3,000. Yeah,
1,500.
I had the stamina.
We all had stamina at a young age, though.
There was no sprinting going on.
No, I was not a sprinter, but I could go long distances. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Enough about us. Somebody who does have some stamina is Kristian Vesalainen. What do you make of the opportunity in front of him, Mitch? This is a very intriguing, and I think somebody read something in this room that said he was one of the most frustrating prospects because you can tell he has the tools, and it's just taking time, and that's how it goes for some guys. But man, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface with him.
Yeah, I think it was in The Athletic where I read that, and I can't remember who wrote it. Otherwise, I would attribute it to him. But yeah, and here's the thing for Kristian Vesalainen. Like, he talked a few days ago about how critical playing in those Stanley Cup playoff games were last year for him. Just an absolutely massive confidence boost. And then in the offseason, he gets a phone call from Paul Maurice saying, hey, I know you're a left winger. What do you think about playing on the right side? And Vesalainen said, I changed my training right then and there. I started doing everything from the right wing, and because that's the spot that's open. And I think that really speaks to the fact that, and I mean, everybody's kind of seen the Kristian Vesalainen interviews. He sounds like a guy who's very confident in what he's able to bring. And
so he should be.
He should be, absolutely. This is a guy that, can put up some points. He just has to, as Paul Maurice said, he just has to get that confidence in his ability to, whether it's shoot the puck or make plays or get the puck off the walls, come out of there and make some plays with it. And once he gets that confidence, he's got the body and the frame to be able to succeed in the role that he would be in playing with someone like Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. I would imagine he's going to get a fair bit of preseason time here, and just to see what he's able to do. And then that's the other thing over the course of training camp. They've kind of got the lines in one kind of such and such a way with Kopp and Lowry separated. I'm going to be really curious if there's going to be a preseason game or something where they do put Kopp, Lowry, and Vesalainen together and see how that goes. They know Kopp and Lowry works. That goes back years. But I do think they're going to want to see him with Kristian Vesalainen at some point. But Paul Maurice won't let me into his office to see if that's the actual plan. So that's just a guess on my part.
It always seems like the Winnipeg Jets have a young, talented player that, perhaps wasn't panning out in air quotes and then steps up, whether it be Mason Appleton, Logan Stanley. Is Kristian Vesalainen that guy this year? I think he probably is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. You saw flashes of that he got more comfortable, and I think Kristian Vesalainen was less of a perimeter player the latter part of last year, and he showed flashes of the ability to go to the front of the net. We know he has the shot. He just has to use his size to get the puck because he has the skill with it. He's just got to go in and get it, and I think we will see a lot of Kristian Vesalainen. And killing penalties is going to get him more ice time too, and we touched on it a little bit. He did kill penalties with Jansen Harkins on Sunday night against Ottawa, so there's that part of his game that if there's trust, we've seen a lot of Manitoba Moose guys come up and have to kill penalties. That's just part of what you have to do to prove yourself at the National Hockey League level, and that's just another thing that's going to just add to Kristian Vesalainen's confidence.
Jamie, I'll go to you with our final topic here. The big news in the summer was Brenden Dillon, Nate Schmidt. I'll leave it to you to just sort of tell me what you thought of them so far through camp. Obviously, Brenden Dillon played in the preseason game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that stood out to me in the exit interviews with Andrew Kopp is that they wanted to get they had to be a lot tougher to play against. And automatically with Brenden Dillon, you become a team that becomes a lot tougher to play against. There was one shift against Ottawa. You saw him jump up the ice. He had 2 hits, and then a little bit later had another chance. So what he's going to do for Neil Pionk is allow Neil Pionk to sit back sometimes and not have to take up off the ice all the time like he did with Derek Forbort. And that is no knock against Derek Forbort. That's just not his game.
Yeah, just stylistically, it's just different.
Right. So with Brenden Dillon, he will go up the ice. So Neil Pionk's not going to touch the puck so much, therefore less wear and tear. And then a guy that's going to hit a lot. So there's a lot of thought process. Which corner am I going to go into if you're going to be a member of the opposition? So he looks comfortable right away. And then with Nate Schmidt, what we've heard from him and what we saw last year against Vancouver. Vancouver was horrible defensively last year, but not when Alex Edler and Nate Schmidt were on the ice together. They were Vancouver's top shutdown pair. So I think we think of the offensive side of Nate Schmidt, but we should also realize he's a pretty damn good defender, and he's also a great first pass out of his own zone, and that's with both players. Jets have great forwards. They just need defensemen to get them the puck, and I think clearly that's what we have in Schmidt and Dillon.
The Winnipeg Jets have a handful of games this week, including one on Wednesday against the Edmonton Oilers here at Canada Life Center in Winnipeg. And then they take off on the Big Bird on Saturday for what will be a very strange sequence of events, a preseason road trip. Saturday night in Edmonton, and then jump over to Vancouver for a Sunday late afternoon Pacific time. So bang on, I think it's a 7 o'clock start in Winnipeg on Sunday. But in Vancouver, obviously, the Winnipeg Jets taking on the Canucks. And then back to Winnipeg, and then we'll have another podcast episode for you, so I will not spoil the next week.
Don't want to give you what's going to go on the next preseason week.
There is nowhere you can find any of that information either. Of course, all our content is at winnipegjets.com and our social channels. I don't know about you guys, but it's 11:19 p.m. on a Sunday night. I'd like to go home.
Yeah.
On behalf of myself, Tyler Esquivel, Jamie Thomas, and Mitchell Clinton, thanks so much for listening to Ground Control. Happy to have you back listening again for a 4th season. Hope to do it more sometime. Have a great night.
This is Big Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV. For Jets news, videos, and more, head to winnipegjets.com.
Proceed when able.